So, despite what they have been saying, that Britain is just getting safer as it becomes more diverse, the country is just doing great, bro. There's nothing to worry about. London in particular, or any other big city really, is not experiencing an unrecorded crime wave because the statistics that we are recording tell us that everything's going great. And so that's their opinion of us, the common people of the country. And as you can see, women are well aware that the country is not getting safer because they're more worried about going out at night. They're more worried about going around on their own, frankly. But don't worry, that's just us, the plebs, the people who don't matter. What about the people who do matter to the government? The people who actually are the infrastructure of the state across the country. Those people without whom the state cannot either function or just maintain itself at all. Well, when you ask those people, you realise that those people oh yeah, things are getting way more violent. So back in April, the teachers union in Britain declared a pupil behaviour emergency because, according to the General Secretary of the union, pupil behaviour has been an issue for teachers for a long time, but in recent years we have seen an unprecedented surge in levels of violence and abuse in the classroom. Well, what are the demographics of the students? Based on our latest data, we estimate as many as 30,000 violent incidents against teachers involving pupils with a weapon in the last year. Many teachers are having to think about how they survive in the classroom before they can begin to focus on their teaching and pupils' learning. That is crazy. We are calling on the government to invest in properly funded services to identify and tackle the root causes of pupil violence and aggression. Well, that is mad, actually, isn't it? And you would think that this would be one of those times where the government's like, okay, no, we need our ideological state apparatus to continue to indoctrinate people into the beauty and virtue of multiculturalism and diversity and inclusion. Therefore, surely we don't want to make being a teacher dangerous because we need them to brainwash the youth. And if they're not brainwashed into believing what we think, well then, how's that going to work? And if people don't want to become teachers because it's dangerous, because the pupils themselves are out of control, again, adolescence was representing the country accurately in that regard, then this is a regime that won't last. And this is the whole point. These things have been going on for years. Attacks on firefighters in 2023 were the highest since records began. This is wild, isn't it? Why would you attack a firefighter? Surely he's turned up to save your house or whatever, and yet this is happening all the time. There's something like nearly 1,000 incidents a year where firefighters, firemen I would say, are being attacked by just random members of the public. 60 injuries, and that's an increase of 5% on the previous year. This is the latest data I could find on this, by the way. But that's wild. And so they've got to engage in some sort of novel study, which they started last year, to try and reduce the number of attacks on firefighters. It's like, why the hell would anyone attack a fireman? Like, what's he doing wrong that would justify attacking, that would provoke you into attacking him? And one of the things I'm wondering is if what these people represent is in fact the British state, and therefore attacking them, just like attacking teachers, are attacking organisations of the state. Like, are attacks in mosques or madrasas or whatever they call them, are they going up? You know, is this something that's localised or is this general? You know, it's really hard to tell. But anyway, the next one is ambulance staff. Again, why would you attack ambulance staff? They turn up to help you, and yet there are 433 attacks on ambulance staff every week. Again, highest on record. Like, this was only 3 months ago this was published, right? 22,000 incidents of violence, aggression and abuse directed at paramedics and other ambulance workers, up 15% on the previous year. So why is that the case? Why is violence against teachers at record highs? Why is violence against firemen at record highs? Why is violence against paramedics at record highs? Like, senior ambulance officials said they believe the true toll was higher, but many incidents not reported or recorded. Well, welcome to the club, bro. Like, welcome to the club. This is absolutely exactly what the rest of us have been dealing with, isn't it? But it's so baffling. Because of all of the people to attack, the people who are preventing your house from burning down or saving you when you have been injured and taking you to hospital, you'd think they'd be the lowest on the list. But man, some of these stories you can find are just awful. Like there was this one man who was unconscious over a flyover in town. When I spoke to him, he opened his eyes, asked if he wanted to get into the ambulance, and he agreed, and he seemed perfectly fine. Once in the back of the vehicle, he became verbally abusive and launched himself at me, pinned me against the wall, and he kept screaming at me, blah, 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 until he eventually left. Like, that is crazy. They had to wrestle with him to get the back door closed of the ambulance. We locked ourselves inside and contacted the police because he kept attacking them. Like, what kind of man? just a young man. Just a young man. Just like just a transparent 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 eyes, just young man. Got no further details. I mean, you get other ones in this which are just crazy. I mean, you've got like normal people who are like just being abusive, verbally abusive, but it's also the physical abuse, just genuinely physical abuse. And it's just like, okay, like I managed to break free of him and actually fell out the back of the ambulance. Seeing this, a policeman and crew member for another ambulance arrived. The patient tried to take the policeman's gun from him. The 3 of us had to try and wrestle him to the ground until he was eventually cuffed and arrested. There was no stopping him. I wonder what his deal was. This guy was acting erratically in a supermarket. I mean, I wonder, just a man, just a man. No one can talk about the kind of men that they are, but this is just happening more and more and more. I mean, you wouldn't think paramedics would be under assault a lot, but I guess we've got a mental health epidemic that no one wants to talk about, and this correlates with various other traits. And then you've got accident and emergency nurses. Attacks on them have doubled in 6 years. Like, attacking the nurses in the hospital, presumably when you've gone there because you need help, seemed baffling to me. But this is mental, absolutely mental. So the figures show that the number of incidents of violence against nurses in A&E rose from 2,000 in 2019 to 4,000 in 2024, a 91% increase. Behind these figures lies an ugly truth, says the General Secretary of the Royal College of Nursing, which obtained the data using Freedom of Information laws. Well, what's the ugly truth? They're facing violent attacks with systemic failures at no fault of their own. Well, do you know that? That's the thing. Do you know why they're being attacked? One said she was punched square in the face by a drunk 6'2" bloke. I mean, like, okay, that's terrible. Obviously, it's completely terrible. But I just can't help but notice that as things become increasingly UKified, as we move into this multicultural mode for the country, things are getting worse and more dangerous. It wasn't like this when I was younger. The numbers are obviously self-evident because of this just rising year on year, where we've got just record numbers. And, okay, well, who are you going to call? The police? No. There's an epidemic of violent attacks against the police. Because, the police are here to enforce law and order, purportedly. They aren't firemen, they aren't teachers, they aren't nurses. They're the people who are supposed to use force, and they're the ones getting beaten the hell out of the most. Right, this is crazy. So the BBC submitted Freedom of Information requests to every police force in the UK, which showed there were 38,000 physical assaults in the police in 2023, which is an 11% rise from 2021. And the numbers are expected to be even higher because only 35 of 45 police forces actually provided the figures. And of course, these are huge numbers of increases. In Durham, there's a 370% rise in attacks against the police. In Scotland, 23% increase. Like, that is just wild, isn't it? Absolutely wild. Like, obviously there were people who'd, fight the police when they were being arrested or whatever, but it was very unusual, right? It was very, very unusual for this to be the case. And so the question is, well, why is this happening? Well, it's not just that we are bringing lots of people here who have completely different standards to ourselves and come from cultures that are less prone to discuss issues when there is an issue, like to talk it out when there's an issue. And so we're bringing people here from cultures that have a higher rate of violence just socially anyway. I don't think it's just that. I think that certain areas of the country perceive the police to be essentially an occupying force, an arm of the British state that they, and not just the police. I think a lot of like paramedics and firemen as well. They view them. I think there's a tendency in some areas to view them as an unwelcome intrusion into what was otherwise basically an autonomous community, and they don't want this. And we saw this in Sweden as well. Remember when Tim Pool in like 2018 went over to Malmo in Sweden, I think it was, and the police basically escorted him out of this area. I think it's kind of that effect, where the communities there don't really want these things. They're going to self-police as far as they're concerned. And so there is, I think, at least in some cases, a general atmosphere of hostility towards the police and towards any of the actual organs of state. Whenever these things turn up, it's something official, and we reject your officialdom. And that's not, and I think that goes hand in hand, side by side, with the general just increase in violence in society. A lot of these are going to just be, as the ambulance staff tell us, like just random mentals that we have brought over into the country and given complete freedom, and now I think they're kind of not handling it very, very well. But so the question is, what happens to a state when the pillars of the state are dangerous, when they're not appealing for people to join? Why would you want to become a policeman? Why would you want to become a paramedic? Why would you want to become a fireman if there's a general heightened level of violence in these careers? Like, this makes the British state overall weaker, and it makes it less capable of dealing with problems. And on a day-to-day basis, there's going to be an increased entropy of people. And we already know from other videos that I've done, like the police are having real trouble actually maintaining recruitment numbers because there's no gratitude in it anymore. Like, no one's happy to see you anymore. Everyone sees you as either a foreign occupation force or imposing a series of unjust laws. And so the sort of mandate of policing by consent is disappearing. People don't want to be policed by these people for various different reasons. And so there's a general kind of stochastic element to the violence that all of these institutions are suffering. Now, this is an alien idea to me, who grew up in a 90% plus homogenous England. Like, this just wasn't the case. These things I'd never heard. I couldn't think of a single example in real life of someone attacking a fireman, a paramedic, or a cop. Like, it would be mad. And it's not like no one I knew or myself had no interaction with these institutions. It's just that we didn't hate them, and we treated them as if they were legitimate, and we didn't live in a generally violent society. But now we do. Now we live in a society that does, in many ways, consider many of these institutions to be basically illegitimate. Like, punching a teacher when I was at school, God, I'd never even heard of such a thing. I can't even imagine what the fallout would have been from striking a teacher when I was a kid. Like, we're talking 30 years ago now, but like, I mean, I don't even know. I don't even know what would have happened. Obviously expulsion, but like, I don't know. It would have been a scandal, absolute scandal, if anyone had punched a teacher, like, or let alone attack them with weapons. Like, my God, man. Anyway, the point that I'm making is that without the institutions, the state is just going to fall. It's just going to become a failed state. It's not going to be able to do anything. It's not going to be able to enforce its own edicts. It's not going to be able to force its laws. And we're going to end up in some cross between Lebanon and South Africa. And I mean, this is what they get, right? They've done this to themselves. They decided that what they were going to do is uphold a moral order that actually privileges foreign groups over us. And so, are you surprised that not only do the British are like, okay, well, we don't care about your opinions anymore, but also when the people that you've brought in to say, oh, right, these are going to be the new Britons, they're going to be just as cooperative as the previous ones. Well, they're not. They're not at all. And, you know, but anyway, good luck to the people in these institutions. And as I said, it's going to be a long, hard road for them, but I don't think it's going to get any better.